Welcome to the Solo Grind, your weekly coffee break about building a business and doing it solo. Here we talk strategy, mindset, burnout, breakthroughs, and this week we are diving into one of my passions, customer service, the cornerstone of business in my personal opinion. So grab a cup of coffee, find your favorite spot, and join me as we talk about what it's really like to do this thing solo. Hello, my friends. Last week in the Solo Grind, we talked about the must-have business tools and resources and the noise that they generate in our lives as solo business owners. There is that constant barrage of marketing around these tools, for one. They are everywhere from our social media feeds to email, physical mailboxes. I have even had these ads show up in ad-free platforms. And the marketing noise can be quite intense. Then there's the noise of incorporating these tools if we do decide to purchase them. From implementing them to rolling them out and maintaining them, all of it is so distracting in and of itself. Then there is the struggle of getting them to all play nice and work together. And when that doesn't happen, we have to drop what we are doing and try to figure out which one isn't playing nice and breaking everything. It is a lot to take on, especially if you were doing all of this as a solo business owner. Now, last week's episode opened up so many conversations, some really good conversations, in fact. And y'all know I love a really good conversation. The trouble for me was that it opened up so many good conversations that I had a hard time deciding where to take this week's episode. Should we talk about the noisy marketing tactics and how to manage them? Or maybe let's open up a discussion on what to do when promises don't deliver. That was just two of the dozen or so of ideas that came to mind. But in the end, I decided to address what to me was the obvious elephant in the room. In that list of must have business tools, customer service was last on the list. Now, I admit I wasn't thinking about customer service either when I first started doing my research, but the fact that it was tossed in at the bottom as an afterthought really got me thinking. And those are the thoughts that I plan to share with you in today's episode. But before we get into today's conversation, let me take a moment to introduce myself just in case you were new around here or you forgot about me and simply stumbled upon me again. I am Teresa Schloop, the original caffeine creative, and I use that creativity to build standout brands and web designs for solo business owners out there who are tired of doing all the things. If you would like to chat about that, hop on over to my website at caffeinecreative.io and book a coffee chat with me, or simply reach out through my contact information listed below in our show notes. And now that introductions are over, let's get back to the elephant in the room. I am calling him Leonard. You know, the awkward guy in the corner trying to hide. And I do realize that I may not be using this metaphor quite right. So let me explain why I think it fits in this particular instance. In the Oxford Language Dictionary, which is the dictionary Google references in its searches, the elephant in the room is defined as a major problem or controversial issue that is obviously present but avoided as a subject for discussion because it is more comfortable to do so. The AI overview was a little bit softer in its definition and I think a little bit more clear to understand, so I'm going to share that one with you as well. The elephant in the room is a metaphor for an obvious significant problem or topic that everyone is aware of, but no one mentions because it's uncomfortable, controversial, or embarrassing to discuss. Now, talking about customer service is not a controversial topic. I think we all can agree there. And it isn't remotely embarrassing. But at its core, it is all about relationship building. And that is a very uncomfortable topic for many of us. When it comes to starting a new relationship, building that relationship, and maintaining it, there's so much more beneath the surface than a simple, "Hey, how are you doing? Let's grab coffee." There are past experiences, vulnerabilities coming up, insecurities surfacing, social anxieties, and let's not forget our faithful companion, fear. All of these things getting in the way and mucking things up when it comes to building relationships, which is why we avoid building relationships, especially when we're looking to build new relationships with potential customers, and why it's so much easier for us to look for the next best tool in business to deliver our success for us. This, my friends, is all so deep rooted in psychology. And being a psychology nerd myself, I dove in and did more than a little research. I did a lot of reading and I came across tons of articles. I am not going to be listing all of those articles here because unfortunately a few of them got lost in my searching and pecking around on the interwebs, but also so many of them really were focused more on romantic relationships, which isn't what we're looking for in our business relationships. One thing that all of the articles had in common, though, was this: strong relationships are the ones that flourish and thrive. And as a business owner looking to flourish and thrive ourselves, we need to embrace and build solid, strong relationships. Now, I don't know anyone who doubts the power of having strong relationships in any aspect of life. But when it comes to business, let me give you a few solid reasons as to why you need them. And the reasons that I'm going to share with you here, I actually am pulling from an article from the Forbes website on customer retention versus customer acquisition. And I will share that link in the show notes as well. The first one here that they want to share is consumers tend to buy from brands that they trust. And I don't know anyone who's going to argue that point. The next one is acquiring a new customer can cost 5 to 7 times more than retaining an existing customer. Okay. The next point that they made, and this one I'm going to paraphrase just because I feel like it's necessary, but acquiring new customers is all about marketing. This includes promotions on multiple platforms, and that gets expensive, my friends. Next, they share the statistics show an increase in customer retention by 5%. So, just a 5% customer retention can lead to a company's profits growing by 25 to up to 95% over a period of time. 5% retention can lead to huge growth, essentially, is what they're saying there. And then the last one is since customer or loyal customers are more familiar with your brand, there are a lot more opportunities to upsell, cross sell, and maintain clients through membership, subscriptions, or retainer type fees. The bottom line that I really want to get across here is that it is cheaper, it is easier, and it is a whole lot more fun to maintain customers that you already have than to constantly be searching for new ones. So, how do we get past our old buddy Leonard, aka the elephant in the room? How do we put aside discomfort and start building the relationships that will help our business flourish and thrive? My friends, we lean into that discomfort. Now, according to an article in Psychology Today, I'm going to read straight from that article, and it too is linked in the show notes. But it says strong and fulfilling relationships require vulnerability, open communication, and a willingness to embrace discomfort. Okay, I'm pausing for effect here. It continues to say, it is in these moments of unease and vulnerability that we have the opportunity to deepen connections, foster personal growth, and strengthen the foundation of our relationships. Now, I realize that there are probably a million other things that you would rather do than lean into discomfort. Perhaps you would like to clean your toilet or scrape bugs off of your windshield. But here's what I want you to realize: if you don't lean into the discomfort of building those relationships, building your business is most likely going to always feel like a struggle. We're talking walking up a steep mountain in 4 feet of snow. And you may love the snow, but even you will have to agree that that would be quite the struggle. So, how do you lean into the discomfort and start building those business relationships? Using the article from Psychology Today for inspiration, I thought I would share with you the 7 steps that they shared and how I face each of these steps in my own business. So, step number 1 is, first of all, acknowledging the power of discomfort. I know we all want to avoid discomfort, but it really, truly is powerful. When we feel discomfort, that is our brain telling us, hey, here is an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to explore new possibilities, to learn what we truly are capable of, and how to have a truly transformative experience. Now, as small business owners, there are a lot of uncomfortable situations that we face, as any business owner faces, not just solo business owners. And let me talk about a few of them that came to mind during my research. The first one here is networking. Sharing who we are and how we help make the world a better place with other business owners, that creates a lot of anxiety for many of us. We go through the thoughts of, what should I say? How do I say it? What are they going to think of me? It is a broken record playing through our minds on repeat. Next, there is making new connections, particularly with clients. Networking isn't just about showing up, having a cup of coffee, and handing your business card to people. It is about making connections. And the reality that we are all learning one way or another is that new clients don't just magically appear on our doorstep or in our inbox. We have to get out there and find them where they are spending their time, and networking is a part of that. But where is that? Where are they showing up? And if we go there, are they really our dream clients? What if they don't like us? Again, that broken record in our mind can be incredibly intense. Next, there is that moment of our first one on one connection with potential new clients. And while this isn't a first impression moment, it is an important impression moment in our business. And you want it to go really well. And if it does go well and they decide to say yes, there is now that moment of kicking off a new project. This is the next layer of bricks on that foundation that we are building for this relationship. And you want it to go well also because you want to have a strong foundation. Next, there's delivering on our promises. When you deliver what you promised, you want your client to be wowed, because ho hum delivery just doesn't make that good of an impression and certainly doesn't stand out. And what about post delivery? Making a lasting impression so they think of you again in the future is so very important for retention. This is a lot of pressure, I know. So it's no wonder that we start looking for magic tools to make all of this happen for us. But as I shared last week, magic tools, no matter how good they are, just don't make our businesses successful on their own. So once we acknowledge the power of discomfort, we need to start tuning in and recognizing how it shows up within ourselves, which brings us to step number 2, and that is to develop self awareness. As human beings, we love to avoid discomfort, so much so that our brains have gotten really good at distracting us. We procrastinate, distract ourselves with technology, change the subject, pour an unwanted cup of coffee or a bourbon, and even simply leave the room just to avoid feeling uncomfortable. And we do these things without being fully aware of why. We just know that we must do them and do them quickly. So here's what I do when I catch myself doing these things, these avoidance type habits. First, I pause for just 3 seconds of breath. 3 seconds. And then I ask myself, what am I feeling physically? Like, what is going on right now in my body? What am I feeling emotionally? What is going on in my brain? Am I feeling uncomfortable, vulnerable, afraid? Like, what is that emotion that I would tie to this moment? And why? What is going on that is making me feel this way? This short little moment of pause is so powerful because it helps me begin to recognize what it feels like when my discomfort level is high. I know that I will feel physically warmer when I am incredibly uncomfortable. My eyebrows are going to scrunch up together and I start chewing on the inside of my lip. Emotionally, I am feeling anxious and probably a little bit afraid that I messed something up or that I did something stupid. And when these things get really intense, when all the feelings are coming up really hardcore, I will physically remove myself from where I'm at, even if it is just to walk across the room and pour a cup of coffee that I don't really want. I will physically remove myself. Now, this is what happens to me. And I learned that when these things are happening, when I take that short moment to pause, to breathe, to ask the questions, and to get to the core of why am I feeling this way, that is when I understand what is going on. And I am then able and empowered to lean into the discomfort and start to have an open, honest conversation with myself about what is really going on beneath all of these feelings and emotions. This, my friends, is practicing vulnerability, which leads us to step number three, practicing vulnerability. This is a hard one, honestly, because, hey, nobody wants to feel vulnerable. We want to feel happy, and most importantly, we want to feel safe. And vulnerability doesn't make a lot of room for happy or safe. But here is the really amazing thing about learning to lean in and practice vulnerability. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we are essentially allowing ourselves to be seen and heard as our most genuine, authentic selves. This doesn't mean that we need to go out there and shout our fears and our dreams to the whole world and demand to be seen. It means being open and honest with ourselves and with those around us about anything that is going on. This could be any areas of uncertainty, mistakes that we feel we have made, or weaknesses that we perceive within ourselves. Doing this, being open and honest, this is what builds trust and leads to stronger relationships. So, how do we do this? Well, here is how I do it. First, I allow myself to acknowledge that I am not perfect. I know I like to pretend that I am, but I know deep down I am not. And as my mama always says, I am perfectly imperfect, as we all are. So I first acknowledge. Next, I express how I feel as a statement of fact, not an emotional outburst. It is one thing to start crying and say, I feel unloved or I feel unheard or whatever emotional breakdown we want to have. But when we say it as a statement of fact, taking that emotion out for just a minute, we can look at things a lot more clearly and we can start to understand why. Now, this one is going to take practice, but it really does make a difference. Okay. I also allow myself and others around me to feel uncomfortable. This one really took a lot of practice for me because my initial reaction to anyone's discomfort is to ease the tension and to make sure that everybody feels comfortable again. But that is just covering up what is going on in the moment, and it's missing a really important opportunity. I will also make it a point to create a safe space around me so others can feel all the feels that are coming up for them when it happens. I remember I was talking to a good friend of mine years ago and I was really frustrated and angry about something. I can't tell you what I was angry about, but I was angry and I was feeling that anger. And her initial response was to immediately calm me down and squash the anger because we can't feel those emotions. That is a cover up. That keeps us from seeing our true, authentic selves. That keeps us from stepping into who we really are and continuing to pretend to be somebody that is pleasing. And that doesn't serve any of us. Once we embrace our vulnerabilities and allow ourselves to feel the feels, then we are ready for the next step, which is going to be a challenge in and of itself. Because in step 4, we are going to begin challenging our own beliefs. We all have ideas, thoughts, biases, and preconceived notions ingrained within ourselves. Part of leaning into discomfort is being willing to challenge these beliefs and being open to other possibilities and other perspectives. This one, believe it or not, came a lot easier to me because I actually love exploring every aspect of the world that we live in. I want to see things from every angle, every point of view, every perspective. I want to know how you see the world, how my dad sees the world, how my mom sees the world. I want to know how everybody sees the world because I want to look at the world through the eyes of everyone within my life. But I also know that this doesn't come easy to all of us. And seeing the world through the eyes of others honestly takes some incredible courage. So, let me give you some steps that I discovered that help do that when I'm struggling with this, because sometimes I do struggle with it. First of all, I remind myself to be open to new ideas, potential outcomes, and possibilities. The world is always changing in front of us, and sometimes our eyes are opened in whole brand new ways. Okay. To be open, I know that I have to engage in active listening. And this means listening to what is being shared with the sole purpose of understanding rather than thinking about how to defend my beliefs. Okay. I then make a point to really think about what I've learned from this person and ask myself, does this change how I see things? Sometimes it does, absolutely. Other times I still hold on to the same beliefs that I had before, but now I have a more clear understanding as to why I hold those beliefs. Rather than blindly defending without an understanding, I now have clarity. Okay. Finally, I will have a better understanding of those around me and how they think and how they see the world and what has brought them to this point in their life, which leads us into step number 5 that I think is much easier for many of us. And that is to practice compassion and embrace empathy. Compassion and empathy require patience and understanding. When we can see the how and why others behave and think the way they do, the discomfort we initially felt begins to fade. We may not agree with them, but being able to see how they got to where they are now with their beliefs, their ideas, their journey, basically, we're able to provide them with empathy and remind ourselves that growth takes time and we are all at different stages of our life. I also think it's important to stay here that compassion and empathy isn't just something that we extend to others. We need to first give compassion and empathy to ourselves. We are all our own worst enemy at times. And when I find myself being just a little too hard on myself, here is what I do. I take a step back, I take a deep breath, and then maybe another deep breath. I acknowledge what I am feeling and I give myself grace. It's essentially following the steps that we've been following already in learning how to lean into discomfort. It's the same thing that I do when I'm being too hard on myself. Because here's what I want to remember. I am doing the best that I can with what I know in the moment and with what I have available to me. And I am never going to learn or grow if I refuse to cut myself some slack. And this is the perfect segue into our next step, which is baby steps, my friends. We don't have to dive headfirst into discomfort and wallow in it. Now, I am a dive right in person because I like to work through discomfort as quickly as possible. But that hasn't always been the case, and I know a lot of people who prefer to take it a little bit slower. Early on in my own journey of learning how to lean into discomfort, I preferred myself to dip my toe in and slowly place myself in situations that felt icky and uncomfortable. I would sit there for just a bit and get used to recognizing what it felt like to be in that moment. As I did so, it got easier, and I was able to start facing these uncomfortable situations with more confidence. And that confidence began to naturally build stronger, more lasting relationships. As my friend and colleague Nancy Quinn says, confidence is a brand that sells. And this actually brings us to step number 7. And I swear we are coming to the end of all of these steps because I know I've thrown a lot at you. But step number 7 is to seek professional help. Now, in the Psychology Today article that inspired today's episode, it specifically is speaking about counseling, reaching out to a counselor or a therapist. And maybe that is a path for you, but maybe that's not what you need help with in this particular situation when you're trying to discover how to build those stronger relationships with clientele. Maybe what you need is a business coach. And I'm not talking about a business coach that promises all of your dreams are going to come true if you follow their 5 simple steps, but a business coach who actually engages with you and takes the time to get to know you. Okay. I myself have had quite a few business coaches over the years, and each coach that I have worked with has helped me shape the business that I have today and the life that I am living. Some have taught me what not to do. Others have helped me gain incredible clarity on who I want to be. Some have helped me develop systems to manage my business, while others have just simply helped me get out of my own way. All were worth the time and money I invested because, again, I learned something from each and every one of them. Now, if you aren't ready for a business coach, or maybe you're just not sure that's the direction you want to go, but confidence is still a struggle for you, then I want to make a book recommendation. Because the ultimate goal of leaning into discomfort is to get to a place of confidence when it comes to building relationships, starting relationships, maintaining relationships within our business. When we are confident, we are in a position to build those strong relationships and to build a business that actually flourishes and thrives. So, if confidence is a struggle for you, then I want to encourage you to check out the book Respond with Confidence by Nancy Quinn Ganzikoffer, who I was just quoting a moment ago. I have no doubt that by the time you get to step 6 in this leaning into discomfort path, you are going to be a lot closer to success than you even realize. And this book just may be the nudge that you need to help you see that. And if you love Nancy as much as I do, then be sure to tune in to the solo grind or at least touch base because she is going to be a guest in the very near future. And we are going to be talking about confident communication, which I guarantee is going to be a powerful episode. All right, that is it for this week, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging in there and being here with me. I know that when it comes to talking about emotions and all of these feelings and all the things that are going on and how to build relationships, it is uncomfortable. It is icky, and it does make us get a little anxious and maybe a little heated under the skin. But for me in my business, building customer relationships is the reason that I have a business. It is the very first thing that I think about anytime that I make changes in my business is how is this going to impact my customers? Is this going to be well received? Is this going to benefit them? Is this going to support them? And by putting customers first in my business, again, that is why I have a business. So, thank you again, my friends, for tuning in today. I look forward to connecting with you each and every week. I think we're going to continue this conversation about customer service because it is such a deep rooted passion of mine, and there is so much more that I could share. So, until we see each other again, have a wonderful and fabulous week ahead. Thanks for tuning in to the Solo Grind, I hope this episode brought you some inspiration and encouragement. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast, and feel free to share it with a friend. For more tips and insights, visit caffeinecreative.io to check out my blog or explore the Solo Grind Central, my free resource library. Find me on Facebook or Instagram, and I'd love to hear how this episode has helped you.